What's up, everybody? It's a Blue Drake, and today I have a very special live stream for you. It's not going to be a particularly long live stream by any means, but we're going to be doing a brief overview of some of the progress that Squad has been making in their development recently. Now, if you notice, I'm actually in a little outpost bunker up here. I've got my little Squad rally point there. Now, I have to reiterate that this game is still in alpha, and that there are a lot of things that are either work in progress or have not been implemented at all. And I also have to make sure that I'd have my live stream muted in the background, so when it starts up, advertisements don't interrupt the video. Like, totally did not just happen. Anyways, so some things, such as this radio, which is not fully textured yet, and some other things are just placeholders and otherwise, so try to keep in mind anything you see here, while it's definitely progress, is not an indicator by any means of how the final product will be implemented. So, this little outpost here, the most special thing about this outpost is something I'm going to show you here in a second. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of different little aspects of it here. There's a little ammo crate, there's, you know, little Heska barriers and whatever. And what if I told you that I actually constructed this outpost all by my little lonesome? This is the first iteration of the Comoros system in place in Squad. A lot of you who have played Project Reality are probably very familiar with this system. For instance, I can place a rally point. And right now its functionality is incredibly limited, and there's no guarantee that this is actually how it's going to look in the final game. But for a placeholder, it works very well. So now I'm actually going to show you a beta version of the deployable system. As you can see, you can actually place objects, and the green tells you that you can place it, the red tells you that you cannot. Now, this is the first iteration of the fob construction mechanic from Project Reality. Of course, since we're in a developer build, I can pretty much do anything and everything instantaneously. I can build things instantly. However, in the final game, assuming that it uses the same system as Project Reality, which it should, and they already have the shovels modeled, you will be placing objects that are only built halfway? No. Well, it depends on the... I guess it won't be exactly like Project Reality, but you will place unbuilt structures, and then you will use the shovel in order to construct them. So for instance, here's some other larger deployables. Here's an entire bunker. Probably something similar to what Squad is going to be. Or sorry, of what the fob is going to be. And using this system, you can create pretty intricate, fully fleshed out FOBs with small little Heska barriers all the way up to large pre-created structures. Little radio here. Again, the radio texture is not finished by any means. Before we move on, I'm going to alt-tab really quick, make sure everybody's in here alrighty. Make a giant dildo. No, Victor, I'm not going to make a giant dildo. Is the sound okay? Find out. Pretty intricate, fully fleshed out FOBs with small little Heska barriers. Sorry. For those of you who are watching this after the live stream ends, I like to make sure that the live stream is functioning properly. Barriers. Yeah, it looks fine to me. Everybody complaining about the sign. You liars! You are liars. Anyways, so let's build a full fob here. Now, again, when the game is fully done, you won't be able to just create things like this immediately. Like, that will be impossible. You'll have to shovel them. Also, there's a lot of things up in the air right now. For instance, right now there's a whole bunch of little small bits that you can place. It has not yet been decided if we're going to only have giant prefabricated structures, kind of like how, what what is it? Project Reality has it, where you can place a giant fob or giant, you know, HMG. Because right now you have things like these little Heska barriers, and to the point where you can actually, like, if you had the ability to place all of these little individual Heska barriers, I imagine that would take a long time to make of anything of like real value. And I'm sure the developers don't want to bog down the Komarose system with like a billion little small bits that you use to construct stuff. So we'll have to figure out the balance between having prefabricated structures and having small little bits where you can use to build your own fobs. But you can use this system to pretty easily create whatever you want. Deployables, all barrier, the roadblock here, why not? Now I actually have two builds today. This is the newest build. We're going to be reverting to one of the older builds so I can show you some other things. So for instance, right now the roll system is in, except they only have the single roll. So in the previous game, or in the previous builds, everyone had every single weapon available. I was able to bring up, you know, machine guns and all that stuff. Now, I only have my single rifle and a pistol and a variety of grenades. I'm actually going to throw a grenade here. I'll throw one here. Don't kill me. Ah. Throw another one. And here is a smoke grenade, which is one of the new grenades that have been implemented. Now, this is a very placeholder effect. It originally had a 2D sprite. They have recently upgraded it to a 3D system, even though it still needs some tweaking, but here is the smoke grenade. Go smoke. And of course the physics need to be tuned a little bit. That was beautiful. You know, honestly, this is probably the funnest part of Squad right now, is like the little hilarious bugs. Hold up, let me try and underhand it like right next to me. There we go. That was pretty funny. I wonder if I could see it from here. Oh yeah, there it is. It's down there. So here is the 3D smoke effect. Again, it's kind of exaggerated right now, and it still needs some tweaking, but for a first iteration, it looks pretty good. And of course, since I have my new PC, I have everything completely maxed out, and as you can see, we have practically unlimited view distance. I can see that is a 3-kilometer view distance, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't just say 3 kilometer because it's set 3 kilometer. Right now, it's practically set as an infinite view distance, but this map is about 3 kilometers in size, if I remember correctly, and I can see all the way to the furthest peak on the other side of the map, with trees and everything, and I am getting 100 frames per second, roughly. '86, 77, 78. So even with the first iterations, this game is tuned pretty damn well, especially to take advantage of my hardware. And this is with buildings and everything, so let's take a look here as I go down. Let me double check the stream again, make sure everybody's okay. Also, yes, the game will probably be about 20 to 30 bucks. As you guys know, the game was greenlight for Steam, so it will be available on Steam. No word when that is going to happen or when it is going to come out for early access. I can't imagine it's that far away now. They have not told me anything about that, but we do know that obviously, since they've been greenlit, Valve will be reaching out to them if they haven't already, and they will be able to release the game on Steam. So in addition to looking at this map, we're actually going to be looking at another map today, one of the newer test maps. It's not particularly well fleshed out. It's one of the smaller skirmish maps, but it has a considerably denser forest. In fact, that's the name of the map. It's Forest. And then when we revert to the 420 build, we'll be taking a look at the 3-dimensional scopes and the M203 underslung grenade launchers that have now been implemented into the game. As you can see, I'm maintaining a pretty solid 60 frames per second with everything completely maxed out walking through this area. And again, there's still a lot of optimization that needs to happen, so I have pretty high-end hardware, but I'm assuming, and I'm very much expecting them to continue working on the optimization of both the models and the map layout and construction to better optimize for lower-end computers. And this is with all settings on maximum. With my old computer, I was not able to do all settings with maximum, and now I easily can. And you can see all these shadows are dynamic with the trees moving in the wind. And up here we'll fire off some test rounds, and I'll show you some of the lighting mechanics. Let me double check, make sure we haven't dropped or anything. Now we're going to look at some of the weapon firing sprites. You can see the muzzle flashes are very toned down and, in my opinion, pretty realistic. However, I'm not a weapons expert. But you can see the smoke and the fire come out of the muzzle. It's a very nice effect. And unfortunately, I think I've gotten myself stuck. Damn it. What happens when you alt-tab too much? Now we'll be able to take a look on the Taliban side. And you can see the muzzle smoke and flashes are still very nice. And you can also see the first iteration of a muzzle lighting system. So for instance, you can probably see better over here. It's still very early, but you can see in dark areas, there is a brief flash of light. It still needs a little bit of tuning, but the basic implementation is there, and it looks pretty nice. It should be pretty interesting to see this in a actual night map, which I'm pretty sure they could do rather easily, but I have not played on the night version yet. And we have the Makarov pistol. And of course, we still have access to the Comoros and the deployable system. So let's make a roadblock here, just to show the power of this. I don't know. And as you can see, with relative ease, we've just created an entire road checkpoint. Another one of the all barriers. Now, again, this is not the kind of system that I imagine will be implemented in the final product. Since it's just for testing, I have the ability to instantly spawn practically any asset that I want without having to construct it. In the final game, there will probably be a much more lengthy process for both placing and constructing all of these objects. But you can see, ideally, the power is there, the potential is there. I've just created an entirely new and pretty damn good looking FOB, or security checkpoint. And if you can do this, all that it's going to take from here is just tuning it down, making it a little bit more balanced, because it was actually pretty funny in multiplayer games. Literally all we would do, we would just we would just deploy a foxhole and then we just box ourselves in. Like, just can't get us. Put that there. Make ourselves a little bunker just immediately. Jump in. Wah! You cannot get me now! Just nade spam for a minute. I wish I could have shown you the multiplayer stuff with this. It's hilarious, actually. Now, there is no destruction for these yet. Obviously, that's something that will probably be implemented in the final game, and it'll be much easier to implement once they have the unbuilt versions of these, because since you will have to construct these, they will have unbuilt models, and once those are completed, obviously, all you have to do for the destruction is just have some kind of smoke effect and sound, and then revert it to the unbuilt structure, which is probably how I imagine it'll be implemented. Wow. And you can see they are all very real. Like, they're just as easily interactable as the rest of the map. Like, if I didn't know any better, if I hadn't come in here beforehand, I would have just thought this is part of the map. Like, that's how well integrated into the engine this is. And you can see there's practically no FPS drop for looking at place structures. In fact, if anything, I'm getting an FPS drop looking away from them. So, look at all the fob structures to get better performance. That's pretty damn cool, if I do say so myself. Very powerful system. It'll be interesting to see how it is implemented in the future. Now, for this particular build, I think that's all I can show you. We'll have to revert to the old build, since I haven't figured out exactly how to switch roles yet. I can create squads and switch teams. As you can see, the basic role selection and squad creation menus are here. This whole space is left open because in the final game, what I have heard is that this is where the weapons will be able to be customized and where you can select different kit loadouts with their visual counterparts. Alright, so before we switch over to the other build, we're going to take a look at the new map, and then we'll probably also take a look at the new map in the other build as well. Now, this is a test map. It is primarily created out of forests and lots of trees, much more so than the desert map. As you can see, this is what you would imagine a forest map to look like. They still have not created very many assets to use, so it uses a lot of the same assets in terms of ground textures and the tree models and whatnot. But this is the kind of forest density that you can expect. And as you can see, I'm still getting around 55 to 60 frames. And there are a lot of trees in this map. But this is something that you would probably expect to see in a map more inspired by, say, I don't want to say Koken. What is it? Kozelsk. Something like a Kozelsk map. Whereas the other one was probably a lot more like Koken. But the wood density is very high, so I'm expecting a lot of really cool firefights to go down in this kind of setting. Now, just to show how you can scale this system to meet your performance, for instance, these shadows are probably the biggest video memory eater. Some of the guys from my old videos were like, why are your shadows drawing so close? Well, you can easily change those settings. So, graphics, shadows, low. And that actually changes, well, you can turn them off entirely. And now you can see with the shadows off entirely, I'm getting 115 frames or so. So you could easily turn off shadows and play the game like this, and it doesn't look that bad. Honestly, it looks pretty similar to Project Reality like this, just an updated, better version. Or you can put them to medium, and that'll still put in the shadows. The draw distance will be just super, super short. Or you can be awesome like me. Here's, here, I'll show you all the settings on high. That's high. That is epic. That's medium. And medium, this is actually a pretty good compromise. The anti-aliasing is kind of making it a little bit fuzzy, so you'd have to tweak those settings to be a little bit better. But this still looks pretty damn good, and I'm getting about 130 frames per second, so I imagine a low-end PC would probably get at least 30 to 60. And then low. And here are the absolute lowest settings. And you can futz around with this, for instance, if we put up anti-aliasing. And if we put up processing. And we'll just do these one at a time. You can put up the resolution scale. And you can see that looks pretty good. This is still 130 frames per second. And it looks pretty smooth and pretty nice. I could play this and be pretty damn happy. But I don't have to. I have an amazing... Let me alt tab really quick. Make sure everybody's still enjoying this. And just for shits and giggles, we can build another little base or something. In fact, it looks like there's something over here. Take a look at it. This is a pretty basic map. There's not much to this in terms of structure. This is what you would probably consider like a skirmish map or something. But the beauty is that with the density this high, you can pretty much scale it to go on as far as you need it to go. And the FPS will be about the same since the engine's pretty optimized and it won't draw things very far away in this kind of detail. So if you can have this kind of density here, you can pretty much have this kind of density on, you know, anywhere from a 1K map to an 18K map and probably be about the same. Although don't quote me on that because again, I'm not a developer. Oh, wow. Completely passed up that whole thing. Must have missed it entirely. Hello? Hello? Oh. I want to say there's nothing here. That must be a mismatch between the map picture and the updated actual map layout. Which is, again, to be expected. This is very pre-alpha, and those things are not being tweaked at all. In fact, having the map picture and the actual map layout be the same is probably one of the lowest priority things I could possibly think of. It also seems like the audio has not been tuned for this map either. So right now it's reflecting as if I was in like a metal box. All right, so let's build a little checkpoint here just because we can. Honestly, I could play with this system all day. I love this little construction system. I think one of the best things to notice in this, however, once I place these two roadblock barriers, is that if you look in the top left-hand corner, or sorry, top right-hand corner, and you can see my frame rate. Now, when I actually open up this dialogue, it has virtually no effect on frame rate, which is a huge problem, particularly in Arma. Arma 3 scripts that put in an overlay coma rows have severe penalties on frame rate. Also, it's the same in a lot of other games, PlanetSide 2, even Battlefield 2 to some extent, but it implements it pretty well. But the HUD in this game is implemented very smoothly and has very, very limited impact on performance. Meaning you can do a lot with this coma rows system without sacrificing playability or performance. Which means you can probably be rest assured that the interaction menus and all of the coma rows menus are going to be implemented into this game and play a pretty large role in how you interact with the world and how you interact with yourself and gameplay mechanics. The giant metal box. All right, so before we end the stream, we're going to take a final look at the previous build to take a look at some of the new weapons and some of the new implemented features, and then that'll be a day. As always, make sure you share and subscribe. Particularly subscribing helps out a lot. Having that number be higher means I can reach out to developers and get them to give me exclusive or early access to games that you wouldn't otherwise know about. And since this is kind of a niche genre, I think it's really, really nice to be able to push this gameplay style and this genre in the direction we want it to go. All right, let's take a look at the other build. If you guys really want to. New desktop, which unfortunately I'm probably going to have to get rid of because I just realized that Shadowplay has some issues with Windows 7, such as splitting the recordings into 4 GB segments, which is totally not okay with me. Here's something else really awesome that I'm going to be uploading either today or tomorrow morning. Tactical Battlefield, the mod for Arma 3, I can actually run at 30 frames per second now. So here's a preview of one of the videos I'm going to be putting up. JTG, I'm putting out now.
I'm not responding to this game. Nobody is. I'm just gonna do a fast rendition. Go on rendition.
This is Blue Drake. I'm in the AO on the ground.
No? Is anyone responding right now? I'm doing Ron's feedback check. We're too far from Echo. We gotta get Charlie.
Incoming. Watch him right.
Cast is inbound on that.
Leon, watch it. You have a Jeep behind you.
Moving up.
This is Squad 4. We have taken Charlie, holding for reinforcements. That's something you guys can look forward to in the very near future. So I'm actually really happy that I can run Tactical Battlefield at complete ultra settings at a minimum of 30 frames per second, which is still pretty damn low for the computer I have, but that's pretty cool. I also have some more ground branch footage going up. What's up, everybody? It's a Blue Drake, and see everything. I'm going to put this ACOG 6x48, and as you can see, there's an actual rail on top of that ACOG. Yes, that means I can fit a reflex sight on top of my ACOG. This kind of customizability in ground branch is really game-changing. Most of how you handle your weapon in ground branch is dealt with and you can see that since there's no round in the chamber, we actually charge the weapon. But if I only fire off a couple shots and then reload, no charge needed. This will have a pretty big impact on gameplay. Anyway, so I figured you guys would be super excited about that, so I wanted to show that off really quick. I'm really excited about that. Oh, I should have been extracting this while I was at it. Here's my super pretty desktop, though. I got it all remade, and now I'm probably going to have to get rid of it in order to update to Windows 8, which I really don't want to do. But I need to figure out, I need to find a way to make it so Shadowplay doesn't cut my stuff up. And apparently Windows 7's like Kodak or something. I don't know. I have to look. If anybody knows how to fix that, please contact me. Because right now I'd really prefer to not have to update to Windows 8, but apparently as long as I have Shadowplay on Windows 7, it's going to cut up my my footage into 4 GB segments, meaning I have to edit it every single time, which isn't a huge deal. It's just kind of Alright, turn that off so you can't see my login information. Not that it would matter, because you'd have to actually get this game first. But even if you did get this game, you'd have to figure out how to register. Alright, there we go. There's the main menu. I'm going to up the graphic settings. And we're on Epic. And I'm going to change 1 or 2 of the controls. Fire mode. Anyways, I'm going to deploy now. Now, this is the build that has every character with every single weapon in the game, because the role system has not fully been implemented in this version yet. So, for instance, I can press the number keys and just, like, get everything that exists ever. So, really quick, just fire off some of these weapons. And just to give you an idea of how much things change, since this is an earlier build, I'm going to show you the earlier build of the Komuro system. And you can see it's completely different. So keep that in mind when you critique anything that you see in these pre-alpha systems. They are obviously very much subject to change. You can see that the newer one already looks 1,000 times better than this, and there's probably a good chance that they're going to implement even something else that's going to be 1,000 times better than that. So just keep that in mind whenever you critique anything you see here. Again, it is not representative of the final product at all. Let's go ahead and shoot off some rounds. We have the M9 here. You can hear the reverb has been set very nicely for this map. And if we were playing a multiplayer mission, you would also be able to hear all of the different LODs, or level of detail, of all the different weapon sounds. So if somebody fires very far away, you will hear that sound as if they fired very far away. It's not going to just be this turned down in volume. It's going to have a completely different recording. And we can very much thank the man behind Project Reality's sound, since the same developer is doing the weapon sounds and sound effects for Squad that did Project Reality. Moving on, we have our grenade. And just as another example that this game is always constantly being worked on, if you remember at the beginning of this video, I showed you the new 3D smoke effects. Here are the old smoke effects, which are considerably more placeholder. Oh, except for the fact that I just fell down here. Ah! You can see much less volume, not nearly as effective. Same with this. So these two versions, there's only a difference of 5 days between the two. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how quickly things are progressing. So moving on, let's look at the other weapons. We have, of course, the weapon from before, and most importantly, we have our 3-dimensional scopes. Now this is a full 3-dimensional scope system. Squad will have, at least so far, it looks like Squad will have 3-dimensional scopes. That is not completely confirmed, because we're still playing around with the different rendering settings, but it's looking pretty optimistic that 3D scopes are going to be efficient enough to actually be included in the final game. However, don't quote me on that. Again, reiterating, not a developer. But as you know in Arma, and as you know in Project Reality, these scopes are actually not 3D or magnified. All you're doing is looking through a tube and then having your screen zoomed in, but it's not a real effect. In this, you're still having your screen zoomed in just to have a focus effect, but the render inside the scope is actually different than the render outside the scope, which is also why it looks a little bit different than how it looks outside the scope, and those are something that they're still tweaking and they're still trying to get right. But the magnification is actually larger inside the scope, so you can look at something closer than you would in real life. Or not real life, outside the scope. Real life is completely different. Moving down the line, we have what we're most excited about, which is the inclusion of the M203 grenade launcher. Now, the sound for this has not been made yet, which is why it still uses the original, just default shot sound, and the animation has not been completed either. But you can see that it is included. Also, I have been told that even though it's not in the game yet, they absolutely intend on adding the range settings that were in the Project Reality game, so you will be able to adjust the range of the grenade launcher and your other sights and scopes. However, again, not a developer, unconfirmed, that's just hearsay. Don't take anything you hear on here as fact. I've been wrong before, I could be wrong again. But that's the very strong feel I am getting, is that the weapon settings will be adjustable as they were in Project Reality. Make sure I'm not... Oh, and unfortunately, I just alt-tab there, and it freaked out my game. Make sure that that's actually coming back on. Health is good. Oh,
Move free alt.
Oh, shut up! Hold up. Alright. Make sure everything's... Alright, so if you guys are watching this, I alt-tab to check on the stream, and then that, like, That was not Squad's fault at all. I alt-tabbed the wrong thing, and it, like, reset my resolution, and then I was like, oh, damn. So then, since I couldn't see very well, I accidentally hit the log out button, so it logged out of my computer and shut down everything. So, this is what happens during live streams. Shit like this. Let me, double check. We only have a few more things to look at, though. We're pretty much there. There's not much left. That was pretty funny, though. You guys can't hear me, right? Hold up, let me make sure. I don't want to fucking do that again. Watch it do it again. Streams, shit like this. Okay, cool. Alright, yeah, good. We're good. Sorry. Alright, so we're pretty much almost done anyways. So I'm just going to show you a couple more things that you probably have already seen anyways. I accidentally just showed you my stuff. Alright, whatever. At least it hit. Probably can't get in because of that anyway. Oh wait, no, you didn't see it. Haha. Cool. Oh, server browser? I think there's actually a server up right now, but I don't think I can join it because it's a different, yeah, there's a version which I don't have. I think they have an internal build that they haven't given to press yet that they're futzing around with. So anyways, so that's pretty much everything. Here is the big ass M249 or what, I don't know what the, whatever. The thing that shoots lots of bullets. And the reload animation for that. And I think that's oh, you know what? Actually, one more thing we can. Yeah. I'm not gonna alt tab again. I really want to though. So again, since we're having the early build, I have like all the weapons for this. 5. I forget which number it is. All right, so here's the underslung, but that's not the actual underslung. There we go. So here's the AK-47 underslung version, and this one actually has all of its animations. And of course we have the RPKs. And there's also a placeholder for a medical system in here, which is what I have selected now, which is why there's nothing on my screen. But it's very work in progress, and it's very early, and I don't even have anybody who's wounded to heal here in the first place anyways. But that's just something that you can know that they are working on. They already do have the medical system in here for a placeholder. It's actually kind of funny because the animation's kind of weird. Let's see. The button. There's a button to switch your view. Toggle view there. So I don't know why. I think they haven't finished the animation for that yet, which is why it looks kind of like somebody holding an invisible leaf blower. Okay, sorry. You can actually all see the animations here using the system, which is. I can set my. That is something that is also probably going to be fixed. The fact that you can do that. I just set my mouse sensitivity all the way up. Again, pre-alpha. Pre-alpha! There's actually another feature where if you do this enough, you can actually get lift like a helicopter. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Latourus. They actually do have a system, so just to show you that that's something that they're tweaking. So for instance, I have my your head moves really fast though. This is actually kind of hilarious. So for instance, when I'm standing still, I can do this because they haven't tweaked those settings yet. However, when I'm sprinting, they have it so there's an actual momentum system. So watch, I'll put my the same mouse sensitivity all the way up to what it was. So now I'm doing the same thing, and while it's freaking out my head, because again they haven't tweaked some of these things. I'm like overloading the animation system. But while it's freaking out my head, and it's kind of wonking the animation system, which is honestly, if they do, I almost kind of wish I kind of want them to leave that in, just because it's going to be really hilarious to fuck with people. Fuck. But you can see, you can't just like twirl around like you can in Project Reality. So for instance, if I jump, I can't just like flit in the other direction and pull like a 360 like you can in Project Reality, which is actually really nice. That makes it a little bit more balanced, so you don't have just people like bunny hopping and like doing those 360 no scope stupid things that aren't very effective in Project Reality, but still kind of obnoxious when people try them. Try out the grenade launcher. What number that is? I think it's 7. No. Oh, here it is. There's him pulling the trigger on something that's not even loaded. And since it's a true first-person system, and when I say true first-person, that actually means that what you see here, everything, all this detail, all the weapons, all the animations, everything, are the exact same as this. Literally the only difference between these two shots is the fact that your camera is hooked onto his face. But besides that, everything is the same. Like seriously, if I got him here and I like found a way to, I can't really. I actually move myself. I forget how to do it. I know it's possible. Trying to put the camera in his head. There we go. Yeah, but you can see, like, the animations, everything is exactly the same. Which is not only great kind of for performance, but also for gameplay reasons, since you don't have like a separate sprite for what the player sees and what the enemy sees. If somebody like shoots you in the leg or shoots you in the arm, like you're gonna see it the exact way that it happens to everyone else. Which is pretty cool. I want to say that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we have anything else to cover today, so thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this development update on Squad. You can, of course, go visit their forums and visit their webpage at joinsquad.com. I believe it might be net, but I'm pretty sure it's joinsquad.com. The game will be released on Steam, maybe not in the near future. I don't have an exact ETA on that, but it is something they are actively working on. Could be this summer, who knows? And make sure if you want to have more Squad updates, especially for things like Ground Branch and Tactical Battlefield and all these things I'm trying to stay in touch with, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And besides that, I guess I will see you next time. Alright guys, I love you. I'm going to awkwardly disconnect now because I don't have a button to just end the stream. So yeah. Okay. I'm really excited for this game. I think you should be too. And yeah. Okay. Love you.